Spring has certainly sprung at Broadmeadow. Fashionistas in full bloom chasing a winner in the design stakes. Besides the millinery award, have you backed any winners today?
No, I haven't even watched a race yet, to be honest.
But on-the-track action was what people had flocked to see, and it didn't disappoint. Offering $126,000 in prize money, the Spring Stakes was the first big race out of the barriers. Karen McAvoy aboard the John O'Shea-trained Sweynesse sealed the deal. But all eyes were soon on the 1,500-metre Cameron handicap, locals taking a shine to the Chris Lees-trained slow pace.
He's better suited over a longer trip, but I think he's capable of running home and running into the prize money.
But as the $151,000 race edged closer, it was a Nathan Tinkler-owned runner that firmed as favourite.
He's put a lot into racing and, he probably deserves to get another win before he goes.
Trainer John Thompson was keen to get hooked across the line first, for the last time under the Patnack banner, as Tinkler prepares to sell off his racing empire. And what a way to end.
That's our last runner. That's Patnack, all done and dusted.
That's all done.
Christy Reading, NBN News. Last night, the rewards kept coming for Knights up-and-comer Sione Matautia. Still, there's no denying his eyes are on the NYC season's biggest prize. Coach Mick Crawley says the side's loss to the Dragons could be the wake-up call the players needed.
Well, I think our halves have got to be a little bit better in their kicking game. While we didn't control possession, you still got to do those things right, and we weren't as good as we have been.
And while there was an injury cloud hanging over the man of the moment, Matautia and Jake Memo have been cleared for Saturday's NYC semi-final against the Warriors. Meanwhile, in the New South Wales Cup, the Knights will welcome back Tamana Tahu, Chanel Matautia and Travis Waddell from first-grade duty.
They provide some stability and thrust, no doubt, as being sort of players that are competing at first grade level. Most of the players have been pretty consistent for us in the Cup in the last sort of 10 weeks.
But Rick Stone says it's another Matautia brother that could pose problems for the side, which takes on the Illawarra Cutters in the Cup semis on Sunday.
They've been helped by a couple of players coming back from the first grade squad, probably 3 or 4 players come back, and Pete Matautia being one of those particular players.
Christy Reading, NBN News.
We worked alone. There was one nurse in each centre, and now you're surrounded by all your colleagues. It would have been a big help.
The writing is on the wall for the state's power infrastructure, and those behind the Stop the Sell-Off campaign are far from happy about it. They warn the door could be shut on Ausgrid's 1,300 Hunter workers under the move.
This massive employment hub behind us, as new owners come in and they chase profits, they'll look to reduce costs, they'll do whatever they can to cut numbers.
The Chinese government-owned State Grid is firming as a likely buyer after similar purchases in South Australia and Victoria. Stop the Sell-Off says those sales should act as a warning to the Baird government.
Latrobe Valley was one of the highest areas of employment. After privatisation, they went from becoming one of the highest areas of unemployment.
The government has promised proceeds of the $20 billion sale will be put back into major infrastructure projects, but Stop the Sell-Off believes the move will hit household electricity prices.
Absolutely have to go up. You cannot privatise a monopoly asset without prices going up.
Samuel Jordan, NBN News.
A record $750 million pledge, half the proceeds of the port lease. But exactly how that will be spent isn't clear. John Robertson's only saying he'll invest in projects towards Newcastle's revitalisation. But with the $340 million rail truncation and light rail plans to be ditched by Labor, that leaves a lot of cash.
Being heavily involved in surf clubs, I'd like to see some money put back into the community in that way, so some more infrastructure, new buildings.
Affordable housing and probably parks.
Basically, I think public transport's a major issue. I'm not convinced ripping up the rail line is a great idea.
Upgrade a lot of the parks and recreation there.
The city centre here is just dead, and that needs to be revitalised.
More car parking, possibly underneath Civic Park, was a popular suggestion today, following revelations the new University City campus and the law courts in Hunter Street will only have 25 spaces between them.
I just think the parking's so bad. We just need money spent on more parking.
The idea of John Tate of an underground car park isn't such a bad idea after all.
Regional Development Australia also has a long wish list for Mr Robertson.
The items that we want to see reflected in the Hunt Economic Infrastructure Plan are things like the Singleton Bypass, the Muswellbrook Bypass, the Belford to Golden Highway, and also would really like to see the M1 to Raymond Terrace link.
Jane Goldsmith, NBN News.
Move over books, today's agriculture lesson came straight from the paddock at Singleton's Prime Stock competition. The event saw students from 22 schools and 16 private producers from across the area raise and train cattle before showcasing them under the watchful eye of an experienced judge.
It's great for the kids to get out of the classroom and put their hands on the animal and put their teachings into practice.
Not everything went exactly to plan, but the event showed just what months of effort can achieve.
Oh, getting them ready, clipping them, brushing them, washing them.
Yeah, plenty of it, a lot of time. Hate to think how many hours, but yeah, it's all worth it, I suppose.
And while not all the contestants could take home the first place ribbon, they're headed for the same location.
They have a one-way ticket to the processing plant at Wingham, and then they'll be sold from Wingham to wherever they will be destined, but probably to the supermarkets.
Samuel Jordan, NBN News.
It's Newcastle's answer to the Melbourne Cup, and today crowds at Newcastle's Gold Cup spoke volumes.
A good strong crowd, and again the blue skies are probably what's been the catalyst there at the end.
4,000 filled the stands, and according to the bookies, the good weather put punters in an equally good mood.
It's been a very good crowd and there's plenty of money around, but the punters are well ahead.
But they were all there for the Jockey Club's $179,000 Gold Cup, and one racing's First Lady wouldn't miss. Gay Waterhouse hoping Travolta would be her 4th Cup winner.
This is a good staying horse. He's looking for the firmer ground, which we've got the last few days here, because there's a strong wind blowing, the sun's been out. It's a glorious day to come racing.
There was no going past one local contender, trainer Chris Lees, who'd already had a successful day at the track.
It's a very open race. Oriental Lady's probably the preferred one, although there's not a great deal between them. She'll be up on the pace, but the other horse will be back, so I think they'll both run well.
Early on, it was Waterhouse's Travolta in front, but with 200 metres remaining, Disclaimer started to pull away from the pack. A first cup win for Scone-born Peter and Paul Snowden.
It's great to get a result like that. The Newcastle Cup, it's a big thrill.
Christy Reading, NBN News. For the last 8 games, Southern Beaches have been unstoppable. And that form has earned them a maiden grand final berth.
Yeah, biggest moment in the club's history, so yeah, everyone's excited and training hard and working hard together.
This weekend, when the side takes on minor premiers, the Wanderers, it won't be messing with a winning formula.
We're injury free. We've had the same starting team now for 8 weeks in a row, and we've had 8 wins in a row, and we won't be changing that team that starts.
For former Wanderer turned Beaches winger Andrew Delore, underdog is a title he's comfortable with.
You only need to look at what they've done this year. They're winning the club championships with, I don't know how many rounds to go, but yeah, they're just in all grades. They've just been the team, the benchmark really.
Wanderers, meanwhile, will be keen to send coach Todd Loudon out on a win as he prepares to take up an assistant coaching role with Super Rugby club, the Melbourne Rebels.
I'm staying on in an advisory capacity and then return after I've been down south. So it would be nice to, for the players and the club to go out on a win.
And it appears the Wanderers' focus is much closer to home.
We're pretty much just focus on ourselves rather than them and having a look at some of the areas we need to fix up.
I think we just need to make sure that we control our kicking game and don't turn over so much ball this week.
Saturday's grand final at No. 2 Sports Ground kicks off at 3 p.m. Christy Reading, NBN News.
From the beginning, it was clear there was a lot on the line.
I'll be able to speed up or slow down.
Yeah, well, just don't bugger it up on your end. Like if the worst comes to worst, just don't do it. Yep. But don't go riding straight through because I'm going to eat you.
No, I'll be jumping.
Aerobatic pilot Paul Bennett is a pro, and this was up there with the hardest feats he's ever dared to tackle.
Everything's a risk, but it's got to be a calculated risk and well thought out.
The trick to fly knife edge under a back-flipping motorbike. The man on 2 wheels, freestyle motocross rider Joel Brown, and the adrenaline was pumping.
When you've got a plane and a bike and something goes wrong, it's going to end tragically.
Several practice runs were needed by both daredevils, the positioning and speed needing to be perfect. And then it was showtime, the duo making magic happen, whichever way you look at it.
Great view from where I was, looking at Joel upside down. It was great.
A stunt worth celebrating. Paul's plan now to take the death-defying act on the road nationally as part of air shows, with the hope of giving those spectacles some extra sparkle. Emma Murphy, NBN News.
It's the unofficial launch of summer. The flags have been raised and the lifeguards are back on the beach with a simple message.
Swim between the flags. If we can't see you, we don't know you're there.
Today marks the start of the patrol season, but for Hunter Surf Lifesaving, the year is already in full swing. These international students were given a lesson in surf safety and are already aware of the importance the service holds.
I'm not an amazingly strong swimmer, so it's a bit of confidence knowing that someone can save you, I guess.
While the flags were raised for a new season, at Nobby's Beach, today also marked the end of an era. Iconic Newcastle lifeguard Warren Smith retiring after almost 40 years in the tower.
The body's told me it's time to go. I made that mind, now I've just got to tell the mind it's time to go.
There were plenty of hugs and goodbyes, Council's GM dropped by, so did Waz's wife, and at times there may have even been a tear behind those dark sunglasses. He may no longer be on duty, but his influence will be felt for years.
I'm sure there'll be times I'm going to have to ring him up and say, Warren, what do you think about this, mate? What's the right thing to do?
But he'll never drift too far from the beach he calls home.
Yeah, every beach has a seat of knowledge and I hope to get there, and I'll still be watching over this beach and making comments on how the boys run it and that.
Samuel Jordan, NBN News.
Well, now we cross live to Gavin Morris, who's at Warren Smith's farewell, and he's joined by the man of the moment.
I certainly am with this man, and I was kind of thinking about it there's probably not too many Novocastrians that over the past 40 years or so that haven't at one time or another been under the watchful eye of yourself. So how's it feeling tonight?
It's been an emotional last 2 weeks, and especially emotional tonight with my special friends and guests and you guys here and everything. Yeah, it's been fantastic. Loved every minute of it. Thank to all the Newcastle people for being a part of my life, and yeah, very emotional.
Is there anything you're going to miss about this incredible view and this incredible job?
Yeah, you just said it, the incredible job, the incredible view, the people, the surfers, you know, watching Peter McCabe and those guys just surfing here, and just being a part of some people's lives and watching children enjoy the best time of their life at the beach.
Well, we are broadcasting here live. I'll be doing the weather a little later on. From Waz's, big farewell.
Well done, Warren, and thanks, Gav.
I think running a circus is really difficult. There is so many things you have to manage, and sometimes people make mistakes. Our circus and most of the circuses we know are really flourishing. The audiences are coming because it's almost innocent fun entertainment.
96 names across 2 plaques erected in 1952 to remember the former Newcastle Boys High School students who died in World War II, the Korean and Vietnam Wars. But 36 other names were accidentally left off the plaques. A moving ceremony today righted those wrongs exactly 62 years later, with the help of years of research by historian Bill Storer.
It's a debt that the old boys needed to pay to school chums of, long ago.
The unveiling of 2 plaques to be erected beneath the old ones, closing an important chapter at what's now known as the Waratah Technology Campus.
That was pretty special. As I said, it's unfinished business.
It brings back memories of 75 years since I left the school.
Highly decorated veteran Jack Cornish didn't want to miss today's dedication. Once the Chief of Air Force Material, we tracked down the 92-year-old's school captain honour roll for a trip down memory lane.
It's a face many of us couldn't resist, but for these little guys, somewhere along the line, they've been cast aside. The RSPCA at Rutherford is at capacity, with 70 stray dogs in its care, and unfortunately for some of these poochers, their owners might not know where to find them. The centre holds dogs from not only Maitland and Cessnock, but Lake Macquarie and Newcastle.
If you are living somewhere like Newcastle, you wouldn't necessarily think that this is somewhere that your dog would be held.
And having man's best friend microchipped isn't enough. It must be registered with council to help track owners down. This is Leroy and Logan, and as you can see, they're very friendly and very excited to be around people. They were found on the street a couple of weeks ago, and now they call the RSPCA home. Romeo has become a familiar face at the shelter. He's been here for 6 months. Now he's ready to find a family.
He's got a really sweet, gentle personality, really energetic like a Kelpie, but just loves to be around people.
You can find Romeo and other animals looking for a home through the RSPCA's Adopt a Pet website. Emma Murphy, NBN News.
Really looking forward to working with Rick Stone and just being some support to him in that coaching area, and also with Matt Gidley and trying to give him some support to allow him to go and do other things in the commercial part of the business.
Fresh from a win over Wellington, the Jets are looking to build on pre-season preparations by beating the Mariners in Mudgee. Newcastle has taken a travelling squad of 16, but today there was plenty of interest in a player who arrives for a trial with the club on Monday. Australian-born Robbie Paratore comes highly recommended by Socceroos legend Vince Grella. The 19-year-old has spent the last 4 years in the UK with Leicester City's youth team.
He's a genuine screening holding midfield player. And hopefully things work out and he acquits himself well. He seems a pretty confident boy, and he's done a lot of things in terms of ticking the boxes intellectually to get himself able to be here on Monday.
Meanwhile, there's positive news for Billy Selesky following groin surgery on Wednesday.
He's pulled up well, so the medical report back from that is a good one. It's all nice and crisp and clean, and we hope Billy's back on board ASAP.
Following their impressive win over Melbourne in round 1, tomorrow the Jets women host a Perth side that features 6 Matildas. Former Jet Katie Gill isn't the only threat.
Caitlin Ford, another Matilda in behind us at 10. She breaks the line and she's very quick as well. There's 6, Colette McCulloch. If she's given time and space on the ball, she can cause some problems with the passing range.
Mitchell Hughes, NBN News. They didn't lose a game until round 13, but then Wests lost 4 in a row. The coach says the major semi-win over Souths proves the Rosellas are back to their best, but he won't know for sure until Sunday.
The 20-minute mark is critical to me. I think you really know how you're travelling at that mark, and I think Jake Finn and those blokes coming off the bench will give us that edge we're looking for.
The last time they met in the decider was 2012, with Wests finishing on top. Since their last title in 2003, the Goannas have lost 4 grand finals. The Rosellas have won 2 of the past 3.
It's a credit to this group that just keeps reappearing and reinventing themselves, and we keep bringing fresh blood back into the group, and they've got their own goals and they're not going to know much about what's happened in the past.
Well, there is a few boys there that have played in a few losing sides, but mate, all we can control is what we do this week, so there's not a lot of joy in looking back.
West's half, Brad Murray, has been passed fit after suffering cracked ribs in the final round. He claims the Rosellas aren't intimidated by Cessnock's recent run.
Each week, when teams come up against West, they try and, they lift. So, mate, there's nothing different. It's just another game, really. Just a little bit bigger crowd and a little bit bigger occasion, so hopefully we handle it.
Ironically, Craig Miller will leave Wests to lead Cessnock in 2015. His current players won't use that as motivation.
We haven't really spoken about it too much. Obviously, Barney's been here for 4 years and we really appreciate all the effort he's put in, so hopefully we can send him out a winner, and, mate, we're just going to concentrate on ourselves this week.
In contrast, the Goannas say their winning streak started when Steve Kidd announced he wouldn't be back.
It was around the same time, but I think it was more that they wanted to achieve something out of the year, and they knew they weren't going up to their standards. So I don't think it had a lot to do with me pulling the pin.
With speculation Riley Brown is set to leave Cessnock, the game could be his last alongside brothers Joel and Gene.
Personally, me, it'd be massive to win a grand final with my brothers. It's a personal goal we've had for a couple of years now. So if we get the job done, we'll be having a big party on Monday.
Time for the weather now, and Gav joins us tonight live from Nobby's Beach with Warren Smith.
Sure, Sarge, we're on now. Go.
Thank you very much, Tash. Well, here we are, Warren Smith's 40th farewell at Nobby's live. We've had a banger, we've had a cold one. Feeling a little more relaxed now, Woz?
Yes, yeah, and the emotions are out now, gone.
All right, that's good. Let's take a look at the weather situation. We'll come back, but Wazza is going to finish off. He's going to do the surf report, okay? So looking forward to that one. First of all, this evening's weather photo comes to us from Armidale. They had some morning frost. So too did the Upper Hunter this morning. This one is from Mark Fuller, so a little frosty underfoot this morning. Over the past 24 hours, as far as rainfall is concerned, though, we've had some small numbers, mostly along the west coast of Tasmania and throughout Victoria. Otherwise, still, the remainder of the nation is pretty much dry at the moment. On the satellite image, that high cloud passed over us today. Moving quickly, it should mostly clear overnight. It is clearing out over the Tasman. A little bit of cloud also still just pumping in over the Tasman. That's what's helping to generate the swell. There's plenty of that. We'll get to that in a moment with Wazza. Onto the synoptic chart. What is happening tomorrow? Well, that high pressure is still dominating the nation at the moment. It's creating a southeasterly influence along the entire east coast of Australia. The majority of the nation remains dry again for yet another day. Around all of our major cities, well, Brisbane and Melbourne, they may see a shower, but they too are going to be light on, sunny and warm elsewhere. Look at Perth, though. This is their first big hit of summer-like temperatures. They should get into the low 30s, a little like the Alice, in fact. Locally, today, well, pretty comfortable during the afternoon. It's a little cool right now at Nobby's Beach with that easterly whistling in on us. But look at that freezing start also right throughout the Upper Hunter, where they did see a couple of frosts as well. But hopefully that's it for the season. That latest cold pool is going to settle down. Currently, well, the good part about today, despite that high-level cloud, we had low humidity. The onshore winds were very, very consistent, and the pressure is falling at the moment as we move into this Friday night. Taking a look at the wind situation for tomorrow, we've got a morning southwesterly. It's going to boot around to the southeast and whistle in and up throughout the valley. And it's probably going to hold out of that southeast quadrant throughout the day, but we'll find out for sure with Warren Smith in just a moment when he gives us that detailed surf report. Rain-wise, dry tomorrow. There's nothing going to happen as far as moisture content is concerned. Maybe a coastal shower on Sunday, but not tomorrow. Taking a look at the forecast, looking pretty good, mighty fine. In fact, fine and mostly sunny tomorrow. That includes the coastal areas, and then taking a look up throughout the valley. Top temperatures should reach around 20 into the low 20s for the valley, so shaping up nicely after another cool start. Well, what about the swell? There is plenty of that. Looks like it's going to hold. It is a solid south swell, and it is expected to continue probably right across the weekend. In fact, the season swell will be running at about 2 to 2.5 metres with those winds out of the south, southwest, southeast, up to about 20 knots offshore. So getting a little choppy up there. Tidal information, well, the high is early at 5:52 tomorrow morning. We've got the low at 11:31. Sun to rise at 5:46 and down at 5:48. So there's plenty of light. And don't forget, we've got the equinox coming up early next week. So the sun is about to return to the southern hemisphere. Loving that. Boating, what's happening? Solid swell out there. Don't be mistaken. Onshore winds. Look, protected waters by far the pick. I think it is going to be a little bit choppy right across the weekend. And the 7-day forecast, mostly fine. Look, there's a few showers there, but otherwise it's looking pretty good, and it is going to warm up as we move through the week. Let's get to the surf vision there, Was. All right, tell us about the surf, what happened today and what's happening tomorrow.
Today was great. Nobby's Bank was really on today. Craig Anderson was out there. Jackson Baker really tearing it apart. As you said, I think conditions going to stay the same tomorrow. Surf and wind will stay from the south-southeast. Around the 5-6 foot mark, maybe a little about 5 foot. And I think the bank here, Nobby's Bank, is definitely the best. It's a mid-tide bank at the moment, not too early, and around the mid-tide's the best time, and hope everyone has a great day at the beach.
All right, good stuff. Now, Was, mate, retirement is here. Will you be surfing in between the flags? That's what we want to know.
Never.
Never. So, mate, some of those early funny stories have been amazing, haven't they?
Yeah, it's been unbelievable. It was, I've had a great time with some of the best guys in the world, and to be here with them now has just been very special, and look forward to just having a ball for the rest of the time.
Beautiful. Great stuff. Warren Smith celebrating his farewell. Thank you. Have a great weekend.
New NBN surf reporter there.
Yeah, can we get one every night?
Good job.
Yeah.
Well done, Smithy. Happy retirement.
Congratulations, Warren.
sober. We can do it.
We want to show people that you can break a habit and enjoy yourself at the same time.
The most important part of my campaign will be for an open government. I want to throw the functions of council open.
Two houses lost and around 20 buildings destroyed in fires at Saltash and Fingal Bay last October, a situation the Rural Fire Service is determined to not see repeated. Around 20 areas across Port Stephens are on its radar for hazard reduction burns this year. Today, crews made the most of good weather conditions, concentrating on an area of thick scrub near homes at Anna Bay.
We've probably got 50 guys and ladies working in here trying to put this burn in, because we're trying to work to a prescription where you keep it at low profile so that we don't scorch the earth and the trees, so everything's going pretty well.
Resident Alan Squires couldn't be happier to see the work carried out. It's been 20 years since the last hazard reduction burn in the area.
Overdue it was. There was undergrowth everywhere, dead logs everywhere. If a kid ever set something on there, the whole place would go up and no one would be ready.
While the RFS says it's preparing as best as possible for the season, it's also relying on residents to do their bit as well.
You can't always get a red truck in front of the house, so they need to clean the gutters and do all that sort of thing. So put a plan in place.
Renee Feder, NBN News.
He's 92 years old and hasn't flown a plane since 1946. But today, almost 60 years since he last took to the skies, Sid Handsaker was back in control.
It brought back memories of which had long been buried in my mind.
Sid, a Spitfire pilot from World War II, circled the area for more than 20 minutes before touching back down.
I wasn't nervous. No, I wasn't nervous. I was just glad that I had a good pilot in there doing it. If he had turned around and said to me, well, you've got to land it, I'd have done it, but hell, I'd have been scared.
It comes 2 weeks out from the Luscantire Memorial Air Race, which will see 42 planes fly past Fort Scratchley at 9:30 a.m. before heading down the coast to Sydney, remembering those pilots who didn't return from war. Sid will be back once again in the passenger seat, but his knowledge as a pilot will prove invaluable.
If you don't learn from history, you're doomed to repeat its mistakes. So to have the opportunities to talk to Sid and the other guys is just it's a fantastic opportunity.
Samuel Jordan, NBN News.
Marching to the bagpipes and parading their family tartan, the Clans on the Coast festival getting underway in true Scottish form. This year's event unique from the last, with it unintentionally coinciding with Scotland's historic referendum for independence. And there was certainly no shortage of opinions on the result.
I was for independence, so I'm disappointed. I thought it was a missed opportunity to renegotiate Scotland's position with the rest of the UK.
From an economic point of view, they probably made the right decision.
The event brought together hundreds of people in celebration of the area's rich heritage.
Tomaree here was settled by Captain Cromarty. Cromartys were chieftains of Clan Mackenzie, so there's a deep Scottish heritage here right from the very outset, which we're very pleased about.
But it wouldn't be a Scottish celebration without the medieval warriors and some Highland games. Competitors, including 2 from Scotland, made light work of the heavy events such as the caber toss.
There's a number of different theories on how they occurred, be it to find the best warrior or be it just an athletic event, but it's the precursor to a lot of the actual Olympic events now, such as hammer and shot put.
Renee Feder, NBN News.
Contention today.
Yeah, the 31-year-old Australian Open was 66. This is for birdie, the par 3, 11. Just have to really accelerate through.
Short game better be very sharp.
That or you have to find a job. One of the.
So I'm happy to be here, considering I made a good putt on the last at Portland. To actually get here was, really confidence boost and just trying to get it done out here now.
31-year-old Australian Open was 66. This is for birdie, the par 3, 11. Just have to really accelerate through.
Wanderers made a bright start, Billy Coffey with an early chance. The minor premiers suffered a blow when Dylan Rowney was stretchered off. Wanderers responded in style, turning possession into points. The 2 Blues were just as committed at the other end, holding up Willie So. Eventually, Southern Beaches did find a way through thanks to Marty Delore. A penalty to James Wivell made it 10-7 before the 2 Blues unleashed the big guns. Wanderers lost Luke Mention before the break, but had a handy replacement in Anthony Barrett. Early in the second, Wivell made it 13-7 before Beaches cut the margin to 3. Cal McDonald received 10 in the bin. Southern Beaches got themselves into great position, but bombed their opportunity. Wanderers soon made them pay, Andrew Tuala proving impossible to stop. Down by 10, Beaches needed to score twice. The referee called held up, but the assistant helped to award a try. Now up by just 3, the 2 Blues looked like putting the result beyond doubt. When Beaches passed up a shot at a penalty, Wanderers held on to complete the minor and major double. The Jets flew out of the gates. Tara Andrews put her body on the line early. Newcastle was creating plenty of chances. Emily Van Egmond went close. Perth hit back through Sarah Marshall and Katie Gill, forcing the Jets to scramble. Van Egmond put Andrews into space, but she couldn't beat Mackenzie Arnold. The Glory finally broke the deadlock when Mariana Tabane produced a great free kick. Claire Coelho was soon forced into action again as Perth pushed for a second. On the stroke of half-time, Alana Kennedy found a way through. Newcastle made a decent start to the second half but couldn't score from close range. Jets fans finally had reason to celebrate as Andrews scored off an Angela Salem corner. The Jets thought they had an equaliser in the 75th minute, but it was ruled out for offside. Perth had plenty of chances to increase its lead late in the game, but 2-1 was how it stayed.
It's a topic dominating the Newcastle by-elections, and no matter what happens with the heavy and light rail, it will shape the future of transport in Newcastle. But this week, Newcastle City Council is looking at the bigger picture, considering its draft transport strategy.
What it does is gives us a strategy to work towards, and the aim of that is really to then use that when we're making decisions over the next few years to make sure we're heading in the right direction in the first place.
At the moment, more than 70% of us drive to work, a number Council would like to see drop. By 2016, Council wants 20% of people using public transport in peak times and double the number of people cycling to work. Creating park and ride facilities outside the CBD is also part of the long-term vision.
Public transport's really, I think, what more people will take on. To get to work, and if we get people to do that and out of their cars, or get more people into their cars, so that there's, rather than one person in a car, having 2 or 3 people.
The draft comes just weeks after a local group kicked off its campaign to promote a 160-kilometre cycle-safe network in the Hunter.
That would enable most of the residents of our region to be within a few hundred metres of a safe cycle path. Our evidence shows that when people can access safe cycling paths, they ride. It's fun, it's good for your health, it saves you money, and it's a great way to help rebuild the city.
Council will vote on whether to put the strategy on public exhibition on Tuesday night. Vivian von Drainen, NBN News.
The 2014 Grand Final pitted the 5th place Goannas against minor premiers Wests. Known for their high completion rates, early on the Rosellas looked rusty, but it didn't take long for Wests to find some rhythm. Brad Murray put Warren Shillings into a hole before he set up Justin Smith for the first try. Cessnock's normally potent attack was missing in action. Time and again the Goannas were guilty of simple mistakes. Rosella's hooker James Wolford showed no mercy, exposing some soft defence to grab a second for Wests. The big crowd of travelling Cessnock supporters finally had something to cheer about when Sean Metcalf forced his way over. On the stroke of half-time, Murray found Steve Gordon with a crossfield chip. The centre tapped the ball to Ryan Lamb, who still had work to do. When Murray potted the conversion from the sideline, the Rosellas led 16-4. The Goannas needed a bright start to the second half, but Riley Brown's pass found no one. Cessnock got back into the contest as Kerrod Holland combined with centre Geordie Connolly. With their lead cut to 8, the Rosellas didn't panic. Quick hands on the last tackle ended up with Mark Farah. With time running out, Cessnock mounted one more long-range attack, but as they'd done all afternoon, Wests refused to concede defeat. The Rosellas claiming a 3rd straight grand final win.
The Western Bears were determined to make amends on the national stage for last week's grand final loss to the Jaffers. But they were lucky not to go behind in the opening minutes. Christopher Lucas chipped the keeper, only for Daniel Grisic to somehow send his header over the bar. Western settled into the match, and when a pinpoint Nathan Morris set piece found skipper Carl Thornton, the Bears had the lead. Just as they began to dominate the match, this challenge from Liam Thornton early in the second half was enough for the referee to point to the spot. Lucas made no mistake to level the score at 1-1. The home side went close to regaining the lead through McKellar, only for the shot to be desperately cleared off the line, before Jared Kyle sealed the result for the Sharks, finding the bottom corner to send the Bears packing. Palm Beach 2-1 winners. Samuel Jordan, NBN News.
A fishing trip on Lake Macquarie that provided more than these men bargained for. A couple of hours in, they were wondering why the fish weren't biting, then saw why. A juvenile great white shark, close to 3 metres in size, started circling the boat and at one stage even nudged it. Not surprisingly, the men started recording. Recreational fishing group Ecofishers says it's not an isolated or uncommon incident. Just recently, there's been a number of reported sightings.
We're constantly getting reports of sharks in Lake Macquarie. We're hearing it on a weekly occurrence, and obviously it's been happening for many years now since it's been a recreational fishing haven.
Local experts say it's around winter when sharks are more likely to be spotted in the lake. The water temperature drops, attracting salmon, and that's exactly what the great whites are chasing. Meaning there's no cause for swimmers to be alarmed.
If it's a healthy food chain, then it's going to be sharks, and as long as people are sensible and don't swim at night or dusk and dawn, we shouldn't see any issues. So.
Vivian von Drainen, NBN News.
Lake Macquarie Council has made its position on amalgamation with Newcastle clear in the past, and today Mayor Jodie Harrison wasn't changing her tune.
The Baird government should look at the facts that Lake Macquarie Council has already provided and absolutely take an amalgamation between Lake Macquarie Council and Newcastle off the list.
It comes after the state government released its Fit for the Future package earlier this month, offering up to $1 billion in incentives for councils to merge. But the Shadow Minister for Local Government argues that figure is misleading.
What the government is suggesting is $600 million of savings that the councils have to come up with. That might be job losses, that might be service cuts. And we still haven't seen the details of this proposal.
Mayor Harrison has no doubt the delivery of services would suffer.
There would be an impact on the way that we maintain our infrastructure here if we were to fix up infrastructure backlogs in adjoining council areas.
Newcastle City Council is yet to adopt a formal position on a potential amalgamation. It says it's waiting on more detailed information in the coming weeks. Councils have until June 30 next year to lodge a submission on the subject. Renee Feder, NBN News.
$499,997, 98, 99.
We're keen museum buffs. We're out of towners actually, but it was on our hit list to get here, and yeah, very excited.
Sarah and Sophie Murray from Brisbane surprised at all the fuss. Little Sophie was just keen to explore the Mini Nova area head first. Today's special visitors proof the museum has a solid reputation around Australia, a reputation enhanced by the move to Honeysuckle 3 years ago.
Most of the time, a smaller percentage of people go to museums, and
our museum has just had visitors kind of flocking through the door. So we sort of stand out in Australia because of how high our visitation is.
There have been 40 special exhibitions since 2011, along with 4 permanent draw cards, proving there really is something for everyone.
You never know what's going to happen. It could be a zombie march, or it could be like this deep intellectual talk. You never know what's going on. It's certainly a way of saying this is what Newcastle is about, this is who we are, and I think that that's part of the job of the museum. We say this is Newcastle's past and present and future.
Kate Haberfield, NBN News.
The Rosellas never looked like losing yesterday's Newcastle Rugby League decider, but when the siren sounded, the relief from the players was obvious. West were heavily favoured to take the title, but faced with the added pressure of sending off some club greats on a high. The most notable departure, coach Craig Miller. After guiding the Rosellas to 3 straight titles, next year he'll take the reins of their grand final rivals.
I was probably more excited with the other ones because it was a sort of monkey off the back, but this one's just more personal satisfaction.
At full time, the connection Miller shares with his players and the club was obvious.
Knowing that I'm leaving a great bunch of my mates is very difficult, but they make it so much easier by going out there and just playing to their best of their ability, and they did again today.
Craig's son Lucas also ran out for his last game in the red and green after playing most of the season with a chronic knee injury. He could only run once a week, but the reason why he pushed through the pain barrier was simple.
I'm playing with all my mates, that's the reason I came back. I've played with all these boys when I was younger and went overseas and went to Melbourne, and to come back and finish off my career with my mates is really special.
West could also be without Brad Murray and Mitch Williams, who have both been linked to Lakes United. Meanwhile, Jake Finn has confirmed he's in negotiations with the Newcastle Knights. A decision on that move will be made early next week. And while the Goannas couldn't produce a fairy tale result yesterday, their departing coach, Steve Kidd, remained upbeat.
I think the boys are disappointed, but I'm not upset. We won 7 straight to get here, and we tried our bums off today. I think we just got beat by probably the best side Newcastle's seen in the last 14, 15 years.
Cessnock is facing an exodus of its own, with Riley Brown likely to head to South Newcastle, while in a grand final twist, Joel Brown could replace Murray as West halfback. Samuel Jordan, NBN News. Two weeks ago, the Wanderers leaked 24 points against Southern Beaches. On Saturday, it was their defence that saw them claim the title.
Our defence has been great all year. We've got the best defensive record, and we really showed that today.
With the wind against them in the second half, the two Blues held their line while Beaches searched for a winner. That effort proved the ultimate send-off for Wanderers coach Todd Loudon.
We put one line up on the board today and it said defence will win this game, and I didn't think it'd be that close though.
Late in the contest, Beaches were awarded a penalty, but passed up the attempt on goal. That's a decision the side doesn't regret, even though the Wanderers ended up winning 20-17.
We back our decisions all the way. Var's our chief and he says what goes, and we back him 100%. If we don't execute on it, it's a team effort.
Samuel Jordan, NBN News.
While it's full steam ahead for the Baird government's plan to cut Newcastle's heavy rail line at Wickham,
it is going to transform. I mean, behind me here, you'll see light rail come to a stop.
today came a call from the other side of politics, almost 3 months out from the line's truncation. Opposition leader John Robertson wants the Boxing Day cut derailed, concerned over what it'll mean for access to the university's inner-city campus and the CBD.
The removal of this rail line would be an act of vandalism before the next election, and it will compromise the future of Newcastle.
He also wants more details from the Minister for the Hunter and Transport, Gladys Berejiklian.
How will the Opal card integrate, or will it integrate at all? What will the frequency be of bus services? What will the routes be? Because without that information, the people of Newcastle are once more in the dark.
But there's still no detail on Labor's pledge to give back $750 million from the lease of the port.
With regards to the $750 million that Labor's committing, if we're elected in March, over the next few weeks we're nutting down to the projects that we'll support, and we'll come out publicly with those projects in the not too distant future.
The Newcastle by-election takes place on October 25. The coalition is not running a candidate. Christy Reading, NBN News.
Last year, $180,000 worth of federal funding was on its way for CCTV in the Maitland CBD and the Rutherford Shopping Centre. It never came.
Now, this is rather disappointing because of the fact that we were promised under the previous government, and it was announced that it had been passed by the government.
At tonight's council meeting, a letter of explanation from Federal Justice Minister Michael Keenan will be tabled, stating that council will be kept informed of the process and any updates. Council says crime in both areas isn't a major cause for concern. Instead, the project is simply about keeping the community safe and assisting police.
With a new precinct, we want passive surveillance. We like to keep it nice and new and keep the antisocial element out.
We've had a few little incidents, so I think it would be really beneficial for them all.
Arrangements for a second round of funding are expected to be finalised later in the financial year.
So we're hopeful. Once again, we're hopeful.
Vivian von Drainen, NBN News.